Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. You're listening to the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth. I'm your host, the Game Master. And before we get into today's episode, smash that like button, make sure you're subscribed, and leave us a comment. That helps us out on our end with the YouTube algorithm, but also we love hearing from you guys. We've got an awesome community here, and that's thanks to you. So thank you so much for being here. So, having said all of that, let's get into it. The prologue to today's game session starts on Earth K, where the newest members of the Violet Lantern Corps, also known as the Star Sapphires, recently encountered strange variants of parademons from an alternate Earth where the rocket of Kal-El was intercepted by Darkseid, and the Amazons on that Earth all serve as his female Furies. That entire world is now part of Darkseid's empire. One of the new Star Sapphires is Jenny Cord, the daughter of Ted Cord, better known as the second Blue Beetle. Jenny has a mother box that was taken from one of those parademons. So she brings it to her father to analyze. And at the time, Ted is hanging out with his best friend, Booster Gold, as well as a female time traveler from one of many possible futures. Her name is Lily, and she's a descendant of Booster and Beetle from the future. And she goes by the name Gold Beetle. And she has this TARDIS like device called the Gold Bug, which is a large vehicle that can travel through time and space. Anyway, so Lily suggests that this new Earth might be an alternate timeline of Earth K. And so Booster's son, Rip Hunter of the Time Masters, suggests that they go check it out. So Blue Beetle, Booster Gold, Gold Beetle, Jenny Cord, and Rip Hunter go to Darkseid's Earth. As their vehicle, the Gold Bug, arrives there, it is almost immediately detected by the various bits of apocalyptian technology in that dimension. So Kal-El, the son of Darkseid, is notified. He arrives on the scene and grabs the Gold Bug, dragging it away to be studied and reverse engineered so that Darkseid can have a TARDIS like fleet of ships that can help him conquer all of time and space. Which brings us to the main plot, which takes place in an apocalyptian research facility on Earth. Various apocalyptian scientists are taking apart the gold bug to study it and figure out how it works. Their supervisor is a classic DC villain by the name of Dr. Bedlam, who is a being of pure psionic energy who can possess a physical body, usually an android of his own making. As the villains tear the gold bug apart, Darkseid shows up, along with Big Barda of the Female Furies. With them are several members of Darkseid's elite. Darkseid demands a status report, but Dr. Bedlam gets to make what is basically a saving throw. He rolls really high on the dice and figures out that this isn't Darkseid at all. So he tells everybody here that it's not Darkseid and these people are imposters. So the parademons here all bellow the word Shazam and are struck by lightning, becoming thunder demons. And the supposed Darkseid uses his shape-shifting abilities. His eyes remain red, but his gray skin reverts back to its natural green Martian color. The Martian Manhunter stops using his psychic abilities to disguise his teammates, who consist of 10 characters. Big Barda, Bizarro, aka Con-El, a rebel clone of the evil Kal-El, Captain Alan Adam, Giganta, the Green Lantern, aka Guy Gardner, The aforementioned Martian Manhunter, Jean Johns, Plastic Man, aka Eel O'Brien, Solomon Grundy, Soranik Natu, and last but not least, the Nubia version of Wonder Woman. Bizarro goes first, so he flies down to a Thunder Demon and punches it, almost knocking it out in one hit, but not quite. It hits back, and since Bizarro has an attack vulnerability to magic, he's pretty messed up. We also see that this Bizarro wears a medallion around his neck with a number on it, seemingly suggesting that this is how many other Bizarros have been created by the rebels, only to perish at the hands of enemies like the Thunder Demons. As Bizarro is taking the hit, he calls the Riddler on his communicator and asks if Aqualad or his father, Black Manta, are around in case the heroes need backup. But Riddler tells him Aqualad and Black Manta have their hands full right now with a group of Darkseid's villains called the Deep Six. Then it's Martian Manhunter's turn to go. He does not attack the body of the Thunder Demons, but rather he attacks their mind attribute, which works really well because these guys are morons. So pretty much every time Jean uses a mind blast, his opponent is knocked out. Then Nubia goes, using her lasso to ensnare one and yank it towards her, kind of like a paddle ball, then punching it. Each hit takes away about 2/3 of their hit points. Sadly, though, the Thunder Demon hits back and she is knocked out by its 40 APs of strength. Guy Gardner and Soranik Natu use the omni power of their respective power rings, subbing it for power reserve, which they then use to beef up their own abilities. So they each knock out a Thunder Demon. Guy tells Bizarro he can't believe he just called for backup when you've got a perfectly good Green Lantern right here. Giganta and Solomon Grundy then attack using brute strength, but neither of them are nimble enough to land a hit on an opponent with a dexterity of 28. Again, the Thunder Demons hit hard and knock out the respective rebels. Next up is Plastic Man, who is terrifying on this earth. He turns into a spring. Then, as he sails through the air, he takes on a snake like appearance, entering the mouth and throat of a Thunder Demon and then turning into an ever growing ball of spikes, bursting out of his opponent. Last but not least is the original Captain Atom, aka Dr. Alan Atom. This is the guy who Dr. Manhattan was based on. So he's able to generate copies of himself via quantum superposition. The size of these clones can be directly controlled as well. So, aside from the fact that he can turn into multiple giant Captain Atoms, then each one is also able to manipulate reality on an eighth dimensional level. This allows him to do things like telekinetically restructure matter, an ability the Captain Atoms then use on the Thunder Demons, causing them all to sift apart into microscopic pieces. Once the fighting is over, Soranik subs the Omni power of her power ring for regeneration usable on others. She heals any injured rebels, as the Martian Manhunter uses a mind probe on a surviving Thunder Demon. By doing this, he learns who owns the Gold Bug vehicle, as well as where they were taken to. Guy Gardner flies over to Manhunter and lands and says, "Well?" And Manhunter says the visitors have been taken to Darkseid. So now it's Manhunter who contacts the Riddler over the communicator, and the Riddler passes this intel on to Batman, aka Tim Drake. And it's worth noting that since this adventure takes place in the modern day, finally, Tim is the current Batman. But before him was, of course, Bruce Wayne in the Golden Age, Dick Grayson in the Silver Age, and Jason Todd in the Bronze Age, so on and so forth. But most people assume there's only ever been one Batman this whole time and that he can't die. So even the villains of Apocalypse fear this strange being that they assume is a supernatural bat creature that even Darkseid himself wasn't able to kill. Anyways, so Batman leads a team consisting of Black Canary, aka Dinah Queen 2, Captain Cold, aka Leo Snart, Cheetah, aka Barb Minerva, Gorilla Grodd, Green Arrow, aka Connor Hawk, Mr. Miracle, aka Scott Free, Nightshade, Eve Eden, Peacemaker, Chris Smith, The Question, Vic Sage, and the Scarecrow, John Crane. Nightshade is able to cloak the rebels in literal shadow, making them extremely hard to detect as they make their way through sewers and other abandoned tunnel networks under the city. When they encounter locked vault like doors, she's able to create black portals, sort of like what we saw in the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit with the portaholes. So she's able to make a black disc shaped portal on one side of a wall, and then they walk out of a corresponding black portal on one of the inner walls. And when the parademons show up, Gorilla Grodd makes them forget the word Shazam. In a much needed moment of levity in an otherwise grim and gritty adventure, the parademons just kind of stammer and say, and then they get shot by Connor Hawk with low tech arrows, ending in stone arrowheads, bleach arrows, and arrows made out of whatever useful junk he was able to scrounge in this twisted world. Heroes then make their way into the torture chamber of Desaad, and Batman pulls the classic Tim Drake bow staff out of his trench coat, extends it, and then it's Batman who teaches Desaad a thing or two about pain. That's when the evil Kal-El shows up, and Connor Hawk shoots an arrowhead at him. Cal catches it and starts to monologue about how stupid it is to try to kill him with such a weak and low-tech weapon. It looks cheap, and it was literally just spray painted green, like all of Connor's other weapons. But then suddenly, Kal-El feels weak, and green veins start to appear throughout his body as he drops to his knees on the ground. Connor Hawk smiles and says he might use cheap spray paint, but it's not lead lined. Kal-El gets it now, but it's too late. Batman wastes no time vaulting over using the pole staff, and it helps him plant a steel-toed boot in the face of Darkseid's favorite son. The Dark Knight says this is for Jason, then starts to beat Kal-El, subbing martial arts for how hard he can hit. Cal only has a body of 4 as long as that kryptonite arrowhead is here. But then boob tubes open up and Diana steps out along with the other female Furies like Artemis and Mary Marvel. So Nightshade creates a black disc on the floor that the heroes drop through. On the female Fury's turn, they leap towards that portal, but it's too late. Eve closed it with her last automatic action. The female Furies have no idea where it led to. So Diana rushes to her husband's side and takes him away to be healed. He is furious that Batman almost killed him. Which brings us to the epilogue, which takes place at the rebel base in the hidden city of Nanda Parbat. Zatanna is here using her abilities to help hide the already well-hidden city. So no enemies can use psionics or any form of mystical detection to track down the heroes here. Once Blue Beetle, Booster Gold, Gold Beetle, Jenny Cord, and Rip Hunter wake up, Soranik uses her power ring to heal their injuries and help them recover from all the stuff that Desaad did to them. Also, here in Nanda Parbat is the Gold Bug. It is currently being repaired by Brainiac 2, Lex Luthor, Peter Cannon, and Toyman. Batman is furious, so he breaks an old vase with his bow staff and tells Nightshade she should not have portaled them out just yet. He was one hit away from taking out Kal-El once and for all. Blue Beetle hears that and questions whether or not their world's Batman has a no-kill rule. And the rebels look at Blue Beetle like that's just a ridiculous idea. Peter Cannon, who, for anybody who doesn't know, was the inspiration for Ozymandias from Watchmen, he says that the ends justifies the means, and it would be awfully hard to win a war without there being any casualties. As the various rebel gadgeteers repair the gold bug, it is this world's Lex Luthor who takes Batman aside. Lex is one of the very few people who actually knows how many Batmen have died and how young Tim Drake was when he took over after Kal-El killed Jason Todd. Tim is chronologically about 50 years old now, but he's been using a Lazarus pit to stay in fighting shape. Nonetheless, this world has taken its toll on his psyche, to say nothing of what a Lazarus pit can do to a man's mind. Granted, it gets worse the more you use it, and the rebels haven't done it as much as someone like Ra's al Ghul, who's been alive for ages, but still, the situation isn't great. Anyway, so Lex tells Tim it's all right to hate Kal-El for what he did. Lex says nobody hates Kal-El as much as he does because Kal-El killed Luthor's wife, Lois. But Luthor tells Tim to get it together and not throw a hissy fit in front of the others. He reminds Tim that the rebels need Batman in more ways than one. So Tim nods and grits his teeth, and he goes back to where the others are. As the fourth Batman, Tim uses his skills taught to him by Jason, who in turn was mentored by Dick, who was, of course, taught by the original, who Tim sees in an almost religious light. So Tim calms himself and asks Blue Beetle, Booster Gold, and the rest where they came from. When they explain that they came from a place called Earth K, the rebels are pretty surprised. Batman asks if the gold bug can take all of them to Earth K, in the hopes that there might be somebody there who could help them out. Booster Gold has Skeets project an animated hologram of the Round Table, and he says maybe the Dark Knight could help. Tim looks at a hologram of Bruce Wayne, still alive and well in the Earth K dimension, and his jaw drops. And that was the moment we decided to end this one on. We enjoyed playing it. We hope you liked hearing about it. If so, as always, smash like, make sure you're subscribed, and leave us a comment. From all of us here at the longest running superhero role playing game on earth, we hope you have a good one, and we'll see you in the next adventure. Bye.